Welcome to ChamberTalk, brought to you by North Orange County Chamber, where we explore the stories and insights of leaders, business owners and CEOs from various sectors who are making a difference in our community and region. Whether you're tuning in via podcast or joining us via video, we're glad to have you here. Hi, I'm your host, Andrew Gregson, and today we have the privilege of welcoming the Honourable Connor J. Traut, Vice Mayor of Buena Park and candidate for the Orange County's 4th District Supervisor. Welcome, Connor.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me on. Looking forward to the discussion.
Excellent. So we'd want to start off with the audience, because some people obviously here in Buena Park are going to know who you are because you've served on the council for a number of years. You've also served as the mayor, and this year you're our vice mayor. Would you mind introducing yourself a little bit to the audience, maybe sharing a little bit about your background?
Yeah, no, happy to do so. And I think starting with a little bit of that background really has to start with family. So you've already heard a little bit about the titles, but my family has been in Orange County now for 4 generations. So I was able to grow up going to my grandparents' ranch up in Fullerton on Las Palmas. My parents met when they were in elementary school here in Buena Park. And really the people that have rooted in me the important fundamentals are really my parents and grandparents. So to really know about me has to include knowing a little bit about them. And really for growing up, some of those important things that they instilled in me are the importance of civility, really treating others with respect, and just caring and loving the community that you live in. So just a little about kind of how myself and how I even got started in this. I actually was in Scouts growing up. That was a huge aspect of my upbringing and what was important to me, going on all those fun camping trips out to O'Neill Park or maybe Catalina Islands for Scout trips. But once you are nearing Eagle Scout, one of the merit badges you have to get ends up being it's a local government type of merit badge. And so it means going to like a city council meeting, a board of supervisors meeting, a school board meeting. And at the time, because I was born and raised in unincorporated Orange County, so my city council was the board of supervisors. And so they have these things called neighborhood councils or civic councils. And I attended one of those meetings. And at the time, the supervisor got up and mentioned all these teen programs that they were looking at cutting. And then the representative from the sheriff's department talks about the uptick in juvenile-related crime. So to me, that just didn't make sense. It seemed like, well, juvenile-related crime, you're going to take away stuff that the kids are doing. I'm going to get up and speak about this. So at this local meeting, there was a board member who went on to be a chair of the Orange County Planning Commission named Jet McCormick. And he just said, well, if you plead it, you lead it. Let's talk after. And so after that meeting, I know I'm giving a long-winded way answer of just my simple background, But I think it's important really to lay that foundation for this talk. I then ended up talking with him after. He saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. I am the drive to have a youth voice and youth perspective in government, that we should have generational diversity at decision-making tables. And so I worked with him as well as a county supervisor to form the Teen Leadership Council that advised for the unincorporated area, that area of Orange County, to the local civic commissions. I attended LAFCO meetings, Board of Supervisors meetings when I was in high school, advised on the youth perspective, getting a wide range of opinions and perspectives from grades 7 through 12. And so I chaired that for a couple years. And then once I aged out, I started to really find some of the niches that I was really interested in. And a lot of that really fell under the juvenile court and the justice system here in Orange County. So I started attending meetings, ended up meeting a judge. Her name's Maria Hernandez, who's now today the presiding judge in Orange County, and met her and found out there's this commission called the Juvenile Justice Commission that makes all these major decisions impacting young people in Orange County, from our access schools, juvenile courts, juvenile hall, group homes, and many other programs directly in school districts. And so I applied for the vacancy. She took a risk and appointed me when I was 18 years old. I ended up feeling like I got to make a great difference there and again, really learn from some incredible people. And that's really what a lot of this campaign is all about. For Orange County Supervisor is we have such a wide net of folks that are a part of our team, our support system, that it's really not just about myself, but it's about these people who have helped make Orange County an incredible place to live and work. And so I got to go from serving on this commission, at the same time started getting more involved in local government, had a great mentor in Jordan Brandman, who helped me get on nonprofit boards. And then fast forward now, I'm in, at this time, I'm in Anaheim while I'm attending school at Chapman University for undergrad. My degree is in economics and political science before I also went to law school, and I'm an attorney. So I ended up attending a lot of school board meetings and for my work with the Juvenile Justice Commission. And I really felt that helped give me a better grounding and understanding for the work I was doing. And at one of the meetings, they appointed a new school board member who got up and said some things that I felt a lot of people in the room didn't agree with and didn't think was right and a good fit for the district. So I called up some of these mentors and went down to the county registrar of voters office the next day, got the signature petitions ready, and went myself door to door for a month collecting signatures to get him off the school board. And then at that point I knew, no, I'm all in. I can do this job. I've been going to these meetings. I know the issues that are important in this community. And so I ended up running, was way underfunded compared to any other opponent. There were 5 people running in this race. I just worked my butt off knocking on doors and listening to people and caring about the issues, and ended up winning that race as the top vote getter. Wow. And so I'll go throughout questions, more details on some of this service, but now to just kind of, I guess, finish off the resume. Served on school board for 4 years, including becoming board president at only my second year at the age of 21. I'm now 31 as of last week, actually. So I served on school board for 4 years, served on city council for the last, I'm in my 7th year now, so the most tenured person on the Buena Park City Council. Serve on the board of directors for the Orange County Fire Authority and on many committees there, and other various roles of involvement. But it's really started with a lot of this early on involvement and just the natural involvement that came from my childhood and early years in Boy Scouts and with that youth council. And now we're sitting here today as a candidate for Orange County Supervisor and look forward to talking more about the issues.
So that's an amazing intro. And what I gain from that is you clearly have a love for really almost caring attention to in the political arena in the area that we serve. What made you go off to maybe be an attorney rather than actually just making a career in politics?
Yeah, I'd say I really wanted to separate my career from politics.
Right.
So when I actually decided to go to law school, it was the very end of undergrad for me at Chapman. Right. I met with some people who were in roles that I thought, hey, maybe that's something I'm interested in. And what would be, I looked at the opportunity cost of those 3 years of law school. What would be the best use of that time? Masters in public administration, where would that get me? Working maybe with a legislator, or going to law school. And from the folks that I met with in jobs I was interested in, almost universally folks were saying, go to law school. It's going to make you better at what you do in politics.
Sure.
You will always have that profession and that craft, so you don't have to worry about your career relying on a re-election. You don't have to have those decisions in the back of your head of, is this going to impact the votes I'm going to get that next November in a re-elect? You can really separate and keep yourself grounded and centered in your votes in politics and your heart more pure, and then be able to have that profession as an attorney and the skill set that you gain from law school. And I'm very happy with the decision I made to keep those separate.
So on that premise, there's a little bit in between. But what made you? Because it's a serious commitment being on council, any council. What made you sort of compelled to give up a lot of time for your family to actually sit on council?
Yeah, and at that time, I guess the definition of family would have been very different for me, because even when I was 20, I was a junior at Chapman University in undergrad running. So at that point, scheduling is kind of what goes through your head of, well, can I get these classes done while still going to events on campus and attending the once a month school board meeting? Then fast forward to city council, the outside things that you're thinking of, for me, that I was then 24 years old, is, I'm trying to think of Cheyenne and I, were we engaged at that time? My wife Cheyenne and I, we've been together since high school, but
Right.
the years on of when you're engaged, married,
Well,
all
yeah,
that, they all mesh together.
They all mash together.
But at that time, she was then moving back from school from San Francisco, and so we were thinking, okay, where is it we really want to live? Because my first couple of years on school board, I was in Anaheim,
right?
And a great mentor there very much encouraged me after our place was broken into twice. We were on a Grand and Lincoln in West Anaheim, not a very safe area, and really think, where do you want when Cheyenne moves back? Where do you guys someday long term really want to have a family?
Right.
Where do you want to have your deep roots? And that's where we ended up coming back to Buena Park, just a couple blocks away. But at that time, then you're thinking, for me, that was, okay, now I'm in law school, and let's see, kind of, that again, it was more of a scheduling thing, I think you think of, versus today it's very different. I have a 1-year-old son and wife. I have a mortgage now. I'm not a renter anymore, which it's near impossible for folks to even buy a house nowadays, especially in my generation. So very grateful for that. But you're balancing a lot more, and it's really, I think, a lot more long-term thinking of how are the decisions I'm going to make in this next role going to impact my son and his future in the Orange County. I hope to be a part of leaving him, and for him to be excited about actually be able to afford to live here and love living here. So I think the perspective changes over time.
Now everyone has an idea of what they think maybe somebody does in office, right? But it's not necessarily quite the same. And obviously for yourself, this is something that you've taken very seriously, and you're putting yourself out there to be a candidate to the Orange County Supervisor's 4th District, right? So what does the role of Orange County Supervisor entail to you?
Yeah.
Before you get the job, not
yes.
when you're in the job. It's obviously different maybe, but what does it sort of like release to you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important is for people to know what the heck the job is, because I feel like this is the one position where folks don't necessarily have
know what they do, really.
Instant grasp on that at all. Because when you think a state legislator, you get it. They make bills. It impacts the state, or a federal legislator, a city councilor, a mayor. People can conceptualize that. And so the way I like to, I guess, oversimplify it is I say that the Board of Supervisors is a city council on steroids, a city council for the county. $9.5 billion budget when a city like the size of Buena Park, only a little over $100 million. I say only, but that's a lot of taxpayer dollars. Mm-hmm. There are over 20,000 workers in the county of Orange. Again, a massive employer. But what is it they actually do in addition to maybe the roles of city council, if I'm trying to compare it to that? Well, for me, they administer justice for this county. They don't just have the county sheriff's department that serves many cities in unincorporated Orange County, but they also have the district attorney's office and public defender's office. They have the probation department. They have our courts and court system. And these types of things are super important because these are the things that really impact our daily life. They also impact our health. They have the county healthcare agency with CalOptima, and folks might not know. They're like, what is even CalOptima? Even though there's 1 million folks in Orange County who are on CalOptima, when you hear in the news Medicaid, that's what this is. This is our local Medicaid. This is the people who can't necessarily afford health care or who need that extra support, making sure they have that they have good health care and health coverage and health care services. The county also has our libraries. They have transportation. Libraries, except for in Placentia and Buena Park, where we elect our own library district, but the rest of the county. Transportation, like the Orange County Transportation Authority, a supervisor doesn't just do this role. They serve on many important boards. They have our county parks and also social services. Those are just a few of the amazing roles that the county is able to really help people and make it a great impact.
Because you mentioned a lot of things there, especially with, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and all the other bits of his. What is it? OC, Opti-Cal? What is it? Was it
CalOptima?
CalOptima, and then there's OC Care something. I think there's something else.
Yeah,
right?
OC Cares. Yep.
So there's a lot going on there, and it's hard to say, well, my priority is all about the county. But what would you say would be certain things that you would definitely think, because you've been in politics for a long time, what I would like to pay attention to when I first get in?
Yeah, preserving public safety is without a doubt the top priority. Improving affordability is incredibly important here as well. And then strengthening our county services. I'd say those are really the top three priorities.
Right.
I could probably go on for an hour on each
Sure.
of those.
Right.
But maybe if I may, I wanted to talk a little bit about public safety, just because that really is the number one function, I believe, of any local government. We are the closest government to the people, and our job is, if you're not safe or you don't feel safe in your community, we failed as a government. So for me, it really is a three-pronged approach on public safety at the county, and that's funding, labor, and advocacy. And so although strengthening public safety is going to be my top priority, and I'm sure every political talking head out there is going to say that, I understand how the county works, how county law enforcement works, and what it is I can do in my role to make a change. So first is on funding. Right now, the county is in a really tough spot with funding. There's this fire that folks might remember from last year called the airport fire.
Right.
There's hundreds of millions in claims for that. There's many other factors. The county also, it's not just the local dollars from your taxpayer dollars going straight to the county. It's kind of odd. It goes to a lot of the money to the federal government, to the state government, and then they bring some of it back here to us, and the county administers it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is to go back into public safety and the other services I mentioned. But as we're in these tight budget times for the county, there's a lot of hiring freezes right now happening across departments. We need to make sure that we have a county supervisor who is going to protect the budgets of the Orange County Sheriff's Department, of the Orange County District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office, as well as all those, again, that administer justice for this county. That includes our courts, that includes our services, social services workers, and that includes our probation department, who too often get forgotten. So funding is the first major priority. Also, what's unique about this office, there's discretionary funding that an individual supervisor has. So although there's 5 supervisors, just like how most city councils only have 5 members, each supervisor has a budget they get to decide with safeguards, and there should be more safeguards in place, but with safeguards, how to utilize those funds in your own district. And I personally believe a lot of this funding should be going towards uses of supplementing current public safety programs that are within the district of the supervisors. Our current supervisor, Doug Chafee, has done an incredible job of doing that support with a public safety collaborative and other unique projects for each department. And that's something you can continue to see from my office as a supervisor at a top level. The second aspect is labor. Orange County is unique because of not just how great this county is, but its cost of living. A lot of people want to come here and be here, but they can't afford to be here. And so making sure that we understand that we're paying and doing what we can to attract the best and keep folks here. As people are getting priced out of our county or having to travel long commutes, we don't want that. We want folks who are working here. If you're working here full-time in Orange County, no matter what your job is, you should be able to afford to live in Orange County, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And so having somebody who has that mentality, that approach, that priority, I believe is important. And then the final thing is advocacy. Orange County is what is called a donor county. And basically what that means is just maybe for every dollar you pay in taxes, we're not getting anywhere close to that back to the people of Orange County. So having a strong advocate who has bipartisan relationships like myself, to be able to advocate at the state and federal level for more funding and resources coming back to Orange County, as well as laws that keep our communities safe. We need to have bold leaders who stand up and are willing to be on record supporting certain bills and legislation. We need to make sure that the experts at the county who administer, just because we're talking about public safety, administering justice, who are within the sheriff's department, the public defenders, and district attorneys, we're going to go to those experts and see how can we help your jobs to make sure that we're keeping crime low, and what can we advocate for to Sacramento and DC. So advocacy is crucial. And just to kind of close out on public safety, my background's not only unique on this because of my background, I believe, which has a lot of importance as an attorney. There's going to be a lot of good candidates running for this seat. Pretty much everyone will have had at some point service on a city council. They will all have worked in public
Yeah.
safety in some way. What's different about my experience is the Juvenile Justice Commission work I talked about earlier. I've worked as a judicial law clerk at the North Justice Center in Fullerton, where I worked under an incredible commissioner and was working on cases that go directly, that get referred directly from the district attorney's office, and also work directly with our police departments. But also I was a mediator for years, mediating temporary restraining order cases and small claims court cases. So at people's most difficult time, I was able to help solve or resolve some of these issues or protect victims. And so being on that from both the policymaking side and the professional side gives me really that deep understanding into the important budget the county has and can really help add that value on behalf of the people of North Orange County.
How do you get more funding for Orange County? Because like you quite rightly said, we give all this money up and then only a bit trickles back down. Well, how do we get a little bit trickling back down again? What are your plans for that?
So I think there's really a few points on funding. One of them, of course, is advocating to other levels of government, and then making sure on the political side we're electing, regardless of party, we're electing people who care about their local community. They're not just grandstanders for their next political title or state or federal office or getting in the media, but people who want to bring resources back locally. They do that through earmark requests, basically a special project for your local area. And then you do that on the broader scale of how funding formulas are calculated, how you can basically access your hard-earned taxpayer dollars to make sure they're staying in your community. Another aspect that has to always be talked about and is too often overlooked, that the focus is so often at shouting to the higher levels of government, as I've mentioned, or just how we're going to spend more and hope for a return on investment. But for me, I want to see how we're generating revenue in our local economy. And so, as I mentioned, my undergraduate degree was in economics. And so for me, revenue generation has to include not just things like cutting red tape will always be the buzzword phrase you'll hear to make it easier to operate. It's got to include real incentives to come here. Why would folks want to come here? And have their business here. And that includes important investments in workforce development. The county has a lot of funds into workforce development. Our current supervisor, Doug Chafee, has done a good job finally igniting that and getting other supervisors on board to see that we're not just focusing on workforce development, for example, in our homeless shelters or in certain programs.
Right.
Homeless shelter, I say, just because we have one in our city.
Of course.
But this is something on a broader scale. We're training folks who own businesses on how to have a better and more successful business. We're ensuring that maybe properties that are city owned that don't make sense to be used for housing, that we're utilizing those lands as best as possible to bring some of our biggest and best businesses. We want current businesses to thrive and do better. Could be things like some cities, including Buena Park, have done, facade improvement programs, how to make it more beautiful and attracting. It can be utilizing taxpayer dollars to make sure that we are putting it back in the pockets of working people and back in the pockets of businesses here in our local community. And then also on big development. Anaheim has done a great job in recent years making sure that they're building new hotels, the Disney expansion happening. I would love to see an expansion at Knott's Berry Farm that's bursting at the seams with people going into their park every day.
Right.
And there's ways that local governments can do that, including the County of Orange. And so it's beyond just reducing red tape or making it quicker to get a permit, but it's really about incentivizing real change. And you can do that through your land use power, which now I could probably get too wonky and in the weeds on. But for me, raising revenue has to be equally as important as it is just advocating for it. And then with the revenue you actually have, making sure we have proper oversight. The County of Orange has I just say it's a history with a lot of black eyes, not just going in the recent years with Andrew Doe, but also going all the way back to the bankruptcy, which was the year I was born back in '94. Okay. And the county really, I still feel, hasn't reached that high standard like the city of Anaheim has done. They've done a great job ever since their mayor has been arrested, and now he's going to be serving a sentence for his corruption. And they've done a great job changing City Hall there. And we need some changes and real accountability and oversight at the County of Orange, and that includes how the funds are spent. Right. So it's really a many prongs to how to increase funding, get more funding here, and protect the funds we currently have.
Now, I love love the fact that you're very pro-business, obviously, because we're the Chamber of Commerce, so that's like it's our job, right? But you mentioned a lot that you mentioned there means working with a lot of different entities. So plans that way, you think, are you going to approach that by dealing closely with city council, with city managers? What's your approach on that part?
Yeah, city councils change with each election. I think a lot of my role has to be important to knowing what is the different roles of the electeds versus the staff.
Right.
For me, I see the electeds as they're the links to the people of their community. They know their local precincts and neighborhoods best, and they're the ones who can help bring forward issues. But how to solve them, that's usually not the electeds.
Right.
They're not the experts working in a city hall or county administrative building every day. They didn't necessarily go and get that engineering degree and work for 10 years to get in the role where they're at. So I'm going to go directly to who I feel the experts are, which are the workers.
Right.
At any city, that should be your city manager.
Sure.
And the same thing goes within county government. So I would go more towards the workers' side, someone as a city manager, and then hopefully they direct more to experts. But that's where I feel the better approach is for a program to have more effectiveness, not just better buy-in from electeds, but true effectiveness in their community. And I would hope that councils rely on their city managers to that level as well.
Now, we mentioned earlier, obviously, part of because it's very important to you, which I think it is important to most people, to be fair, about the safety of everything. But there are other major areas that have to be seen across, don't they, when you're in such a position? What do you see as maybe a couple of the biggest challenges that you're going to have to face, at least the very beginning when walking into such a position?
Yeah, I'd like to go into there's like dozens of topics I feel like I could talk about. So maybe I'll go down the route of public health.
Okay.
Because that is such a significant aspect of the county budget. 2 supervisors serve on the CalOptima board. Impacts a third of this entire county, not just CalOptima members, but the programs we have impact even more. So first, starting with EMS, our ambulance system here in Orange County is, in my opinion, broken. We have some cities who fortunately have what are called 201 rights, where we get to decide our ambulance provider. Buena Park is one of those. But the rest of the county is split up into these regions. Mm-hmm. I'm someone, and this is maybe where I could be different than my opponents, I'm not sure, or the other people running for this race, I'm not sure. But I believe in the public-private partnership model of EMS service. Anaheim has done a terrific job of that. EMS service is so crucial to the health and safety of all people in Orange County that has got to be a priority that a supervisor has, is to change that system. And changing that system is the public-private approach. It also means, and so when I say public-private approach, it means that you have fire being included in some way. So
you just share the work load is what you're suggesting there, maybe?
Yeah, a better regional approach in that response. And also, and a lot of this comes from my background. I'm on the EMS ad hoc committee for the Orange County Fire Authority. So this is one I could go in the weeds for a while, but at least keep it a little more high level. I'm someone who also believes that behavioral and mental health, and physical response, there should be singular units assigned for those types of response. We know that healthcare providers in this county have been advocating for this for a long time. We've had incredible voices like Supervisor Katrina Foley that have fought for this kind of model here in the county. I believe we're getting close to the cusp of that being a reality, because we know it's just not the physical response that we need true healthcare response out in the field, but the behavioral and mental side needs to be a component in a singular unit. Another aspect on the healthcare side, because again, this topic is so important, the public health side, is hospital referrals. Who are the decision makers on where folks who need help, how they get into programs? Is it just from a caseworker? And caseworkers are so pivotal in these moments. Mm-hmm. But also, can the medical professionals who know their job best, who know patient care best, can they be a part of that decision making on the types of programs, including residential treatment, that folks need? And the last aspect is to make sure, so in the last couple of years, the Board of Supervisors, they've been making decisions, and I feel good decisions, on ensuring more people, making sure people are not dropped off from CalOptima. There's a lot of individual decision-making authority that counties get to have on who gets insured and to what extent. So we need to have someone who keeps that at the forefront of their mind. So if we do ever have a public health crisis or even if we don't enter some sort of pandemic again, we still have folks who need that care. Make sure they don't get lost and they're getting the treatment they need.
Now, that was a really good lead-in, really, because the healthcare is sort of like leads into it. Many residents are quite concerned about homelessness and what strategies and other programs we have. And, of course, you deal with that on a daily basis at City Council, but now you're dealing with it as a county-wide type thing. What are your ideas or aspirations for that?
Yeah. So to start, I'd say OC needs to take care of its own and not turn into LA. We know that we have people that are homeless on the streets. We know that when the riverbed was cleared by Angels Stadium, it essentially dispersed folks into hotels or motels and then out onto the streets throughout our county. And we've been trying to recover from that ever since. And then you struggle with the issue of, well, if you're doing too much, are you bringing in folks from LA County or from other places getting bussed in, and we're just going to have more homeless folks? So I'd say the first focus is agreeing that we're going to help our own. I think North Orange County has done a good job of it with the resources we have. South County has not. They haven't done their part. Just because they don't see people that are homeless on the streets doesn't mean South County is not the source of a lot of homeless people on the streets.
Right.
People are priced out, and they're going to go often where resources are.
Sure.
So first, having that wide range accountability for across the county to do their part. And it's really, I'd say, kind of a four-pronged approach. So the Commission to End Homelessness in Orange County has been putting together a great plan, and cities have been implementing parts of that plan. In North Orange County, cities have stepped up, Buena Park being one of those, Placentia being another, to do these regional shelters. Fullerton and Anaheim have done their part on shelters as well. And cities like La Habra, Stanton, Brea, they've done an incredible job on the administrative support side, connecting with services and referrals, and also being financial contributors. So I think North Orange County has stepped up. Where we've got to put more of a focus is on prevention. The ROI, return on investment, on helping people and keeping them off of the streets. It's much cheaper, much more cost efficient, and I think it makes a much greater impact, keeping people off the streets in the housing that they have. So doing a lot of that type of support. And when I say that type of support, that doesn't really give details.
Sure.
What I'm referring to is if people are close to evictions, making sure that we have some sort of some additional supports that a lot of other counties have done that keep people in their housing.
Right.
Which
rather than making them homeless. Right.
Which includes paying for a limited period of time, paying the rent.
Sure.
It's not like all people who own apartment
Exactly.
units
Yeah,
are multi-billionaires or big corporations. A lot of times it's a retired senior who's relying on that as income. So we need to make sure that rent is getting paid.
Yeah.
But also providing them services and connecting caseworkers when you're in those crucial moments. When people are out of a job, we know, like with a lot of the job cuts, not just referring to the federal level cuts, but when people lose a job, people don't have savings to last 6 months to a year a lot of time, and sometimes people are one paycheck away from being on the streets. So the prevention has to be step one. The next is on the streets. I've already talked a lot about Cal Optimus, so I won't go down that rabbit hole, but street medicine is a major aspect of services while on the streets, also ensuring that the caseworkers, again, are key to that consistent follow-up. The third are shelters, which I've already mentioned about Buena Park, Placentia, and others. The issue with shelters right now is folks are in them way too long. These shelters were built to stay in there 3, maybe 6 months.
Right.
We have folks in Buena Parks and every shelter in Orange County who are staying there way over a year, much longer than a year.
Wow.
And the issue is, it's not that they necessarily even want to just stay there. There's nowhere else
to go.
Yeah, nowhere else. There's no housing. The supportive services we have are good, but if we can't get someone in this to actual supportive housing and have those units available, then they're just going to be stuck in these shelters. Luckily, getting some support while they're there, but it's that final aspect of housing, increasing the supply of supportive units. We know those units are incredibly expensive to create. Not every unit has to be permanent supportive housing for folks coming out of shelters.
Sure.
And so looking at the programs we have on, if you were to own a rental property and have a unit, and maybe you don't like that, oh no, I have to get someone every 1 to 3 years, we have this turnover, we have to show our unit, try to get it rented out. Well, the county has a program where you'll get paid. It's the bummer is it's usually a little bit under market rate, but you'll get an incredible security deposit. You have the good faith and backing of the county government. to be able to house a person in your unit. So that type of program, we need to have a much greater partnership with apartment associations and apartment owners. We need to make sure that program gets a better share of funding, even if it means supplementing with some more county funds. I see that as a critical way of getting folks off the street who maybe don't need that wraparound kind of healthcare service or permanent supportive aspect of the units. We got to focus on getting people off the streets, out of shelters, and into housing.
Now, you mentioned something that, people don't talk about a lot, but you're definitely on the right track there. So, North Orange County has done an incredible job working all together with all the different cities to try and do the best with what they've got regarding homeless. And you're right, we're not necessarily going to name them necessarily, but there are cities in the south that haven't really done anything at all. With that understanding, how do you stop if cities build it to fix it, that then they just all don't go there, to make it more of a fair playing field? Or is it a case of, well, we've got this huge facility out in such a city, and now all the cities have to pay in to help pay them? Because that's not that easy, is it?
Yeah, you have to get cities to agree to be able to step up and pay the money to essentially reserve beds. That's what you're doing.
Right.
And so that collaborative approach has to start off with acknowledging that there is a problem in your community and you need to be a part of that solution. A lot of the efforts on homelessness haven't come just from the goodwill and heart of cities. We know that this is an issue that gets folks riled up. I get it. If you're building a shelter, you're thinking,
you don't want any backyard type thing. I get it. Yeah.
And the shelter, I was an advocate for bringing a shelter into my own council district, which has proven to be a big success, and all the scary boogeyman arguments haven't lived up to that fear, because there's ways to address it. So first, acknowledging the actual issue, getting folks to agree to come together, and if they don't, that's where the federal court with Judge Carter has intervened. And although he may be controversial in some ways, at least he's cared, and at least he's tried to do something, and it has resulted in better outcomes for folks. His actions, I don't even agree with every single thing he's taken. He kind of went on some of it maybe outside the bounds of what some people might think could be his authority, but at the end of the day, someone had to step up and do something. Right. And I'm glad he did. Yeah. And so we need a lot more of that accountability at the local level in South Orange County, to do what North Orange County has done a great job of, to get people off the streets and into shelters, into services, and into housing.
Now, moving a little into local stuff, so support local businesses, and you mentioned about attracting new businesses into Orange County, and obviously jobs and things like that. And then earlier we also, you did mention about, I love that phrase, maybe it'll be a catchphrase one day, but if you work in Orange County, you should be able to afford to live in Orange County. How are you going to, I suppose, support, or some of the ideas you're thinking of regarding businesses, work, employment? What are your ideas and thoughts about that as a supervisor?
Yeah, so I
touched big deal, I know. Sorry, it's a big one, but
yeah, what I often hear, and the council district I currently represent is heavily industrial.
Right.
And what I hear is it's hard to find workers.
Right.
And it's hard to find folks because, you have to pay people fairly well, which makes sense. It matches the cost of living here. And so first I'm going to mention, focus on really the county worker side and then expand that to businesses.
Sure.
So on the county worker side, I want to be an advocate for improving lives for workers, that people aren't just another number or just to be placed in a seat and doing some small task that people don't think twice of. They're providing real services to actually help people, and we need to do our part to make their lives better, make this an attractive place to work and live and raise your family. And that includes reviewing options for housing and home ownership incentives. I've seen those are very successful. We know the county, and now this is to the broader public, has done programs to help people with their rent, or at least to get started.
Sure.
Because again, the point's to get folks into housing, and I'm not just referring to those that are about to be homeless.
Sure.
The everyday family is having a tough time being able to afford rents and even buy a house just to save up for that that down payment.
It's a lot.
So down payment assistance programs, I believe, have a great return on investment, and is something the county, when it has the resources, which, just being blunt, realistically right now, it does not.
Right.
But I think conceptually it's important to keep in mind, not just for county workers to attract them here, but to really be able to get people in housing. Because current programs for being able to get assistance, mortgage assistance, unfortunately focuses on the first couple payments of your mortgage. I think that's totally backwards. A lot of counties instead choose to do where the funding goes towards down payment assistance for people who otherwise would have qualified for a mortgage and can afford it. We want to be able to speed that process up.
Right.
You're saving, your credit score is good, you have a job, but you just can't get to that down payment, and it just seems like pricing of housing continues to go up.
Sure.
And go faster than you can ever catch up to. So I think that's an incredible program that's an approach that many counties have chosen, and that's one that I would support. Also on affordability is the high costs of childcare. Some cities like Buena Park's one of the only jurisdictions in Orange County that in any way provides a child care benefit. Every worker at City Hall gets a child care benefit for their kids between the ages of 0 and 5. Wow. That benefit, we've continued to hear stories of how incredible that is. That helps keep people employed and at work when
Sure.
they have to decide, do I go home? Like for me, I have a one-year-old son,
Right,
and figuring
right.
out how childcare
Yeah,
works
you have to go home early.
Yeah, with my wife, who's a full-time teacher, and figuring that out. Those are tough decisions families have to make each day in this county. And there's ways that again, we could see that as a great investment of public dollars, is supporting childcare benefits. And improved staffing levels, and also, and this is more on the county government side, improved staffing levels, and also greater steps in the salary scales, so that it keeps people long-term in their jobs. When it comes to actual community businesses, ways that we can be supportive, we know that cost of operating is high. We are voting on, we vote on everything from water costs, electricity costs. Fullerton and Buena Park are two of the cities in the Orange County Power Authority, where we have, of course, direct decision-making authority and control on that board. And those are the ways we're really impacting people directly in their pocketbooks or in their ledgers when they're trying to figure out, can I hire more people? Can I invest in expansions? Also, infrastructure decisions. I mentioned a facade improvement program, but when we're deciding as a city where we're going to make these infrastructure changes and investments, we want to make the area where your business is attractive. Mm-hmm. We also want to make sure that you're tech focused, that you have the support you need. I know the the North Orange County Chamber does a great job of connecting folks, as I've recently learned, to build websites, have social media presence, and really make sure that they're in the 21st century and don't get left behind. It's these types of supports where government can really do a great job partnering with local groups, not to be a kiss butt to your own organization, but hey, you guys have done an incredible job of it. That's why you're located here in Buena Park, and we're happy to have you here.
Right up to the City Hall.
But there's so many proven models like that, where the government doesn't have to reinvent the wheel or waste resources trying to figure things out when there's already great pros in their local community who are doing it. We can be there to utilize taxpayer dollars as resources to supplement some of this great work that's already being done to make sure we reach more people. And those are just some of the ways we can be helping businesses.
No, I love this sort of segue there, because, making sure that everything works infrastructurally is very important. And a big part of a supervisor's job is the transportation for the I'd say the whole of Orange County, really, between all, was it 5 on the council? Is it 5 Orange County supervisors? Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah. So that's quite a lot. So what are your main thoughts on our transportation? I mean, there's a lot going on right now. They're doing a lot of building anyway, so some of it's just going to be taking on whatever went on there. But what other thoughts do you have?
So one point that's important for folks to know is the Orange County Transportation Authority. You see their buses, you see their signs on the roads, them and Caltrans, among others, doing freeway projects. But you think, who actually makes a lot of those decisions? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the Orange County Transportation Authority, which includes not just buses, it includes regional road projects between cities. It includes a lot of what are called micromobility that I'll get into in a second. It's incredibly important, the role that the Orange County Transportation Authority has. And that board of directors, every single member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors serves on that board. They also have a public works budget at the County of Orange that's massive. I won't even go down that rabbit hole. But the Orange County Transportation Authority, so a few things. One of them is that I think is important is connectivity to first and last mile. And what I mean by that is the United States is never going to be like Europe with rail everywhere. You can just get on a fast bullet train and it will take you to anywhere you'd like.
It's too big.
Maybe it will go to Vegas someday.
Right.
Maybe 50 years from now, it will actually have one running through Central California. But when it comes to first mile, last mile, I'm referring to if, for example, the soon-to-be-named Art Brown Metrolink station here in Buena Park. If you are taking the train, we want to make sure that there are micromobility options to get to and from your house. And when people hear that, they might think, okay, I could just Uber. It's a high cost. You're waiting for the Uber to come. Micromobility projects are like maybe if you go to a beach city in Orange County. Huntington Beach has this, and it works well, where they have these golf carts, they have cars that will drive you around in this certain vicinity that's designated.
Yeah.
And you can do that in areas of high transit. So you can do that where we have major corridors like Beach Boulevard with our buses and bus system. You can now have where you're getting off at a stop. We don't have it now, but that's where we should be putting an investment into the first mile, last mile that will directly impact people. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just mean going from your house to a train station or a bus stop. It means going to the grocery store, the small trips.
Yeah,
really,
the ones that we do all the time.
Exactly.
Right.
The small local trips. Another aspect are bike lanes. Bike lanes. So the County of Orange is working in partnership with multiple agencies on what's called the OC Loop. Basically, this big bike trail that goes throughout the whole top half of Orange County. It's not yet complete, but it's getting there. And that's one where someone on the Board of Supervisors should be not only knowledgeable of that project, but a big supporter of bike lanes. And a lot of this project, in my opinion, should include working with these local cities and the county stepping in to be supportive and helpful of along the OC Loop, that we ensure that new road projects are now including bike lanes going to major destinations like parks, like major businesses in cities or downtowns or other attractions. We really want to increase that connectivity for people that are utilizing OC Loop. And other OCTA regional projects. We have some cities in this area in North Orange County that have better roads than others, without naming any cities. It's just, and people know where there's issues, and I know it's trying to get addressed. But cities shouldn't necessarily have to do it on their own. Some cities are much older infrastructure than others. Some things are really outside their control. And so I believe you really need a regional approach, regional solutions to a regional issue, and utilizing the county and Orange County Transportation Authority is a major aspect of how the Board of Supervisors and how me as the next supervisor can help people in North Orange County.
So Connor, one of the biggest things we've all been privileged to witness recently in the newspapers is basically what's going on with government, particularly local government. How are you going to keep residents informed and engaged and make them feel that there's a lot more transparency going on from your office?
So some of the ways that I've been keeping people informed just the last now 11 years as a council member and school board member, or when issues come before us that impact a certain area, I'll go door to door in those areas. If it's a larger area, maybe I'll drop flyers and inform people of what's the issue, what are we going to be voting on, and how can you make your voice heard.
Okay. Very
clear and simple. And it's really increased that type of engagement. And I think we make better decisions when folks are actually engaged and listened to.
Right.
Because really my job as a public servant, a lot of it is figure out what the actual issues are and work with staff at solving those issues. Mm-hmm. And we can't best understand the issues or how we feel people might be impacted unless we're hearing from them directly and informing them. We want to make sure that these public comments or feedback are informed. People are seeing the same stuff we are.
Right.
And so I've really tried to do that approach. Another is through targeted text blasts. I very often when I'm holding either a local community event or maybe we're having something like an information workshop on designing a park, I want to make sure everyone who lives in that area gets that information. So sure, the city might mail to people within 500 feet of the area we're talking about, but I want to make sure I send out a broader range of information and really get people to show up and make their voice heard, or make their voice heard in other ways. Social media is another area I'm very engaged. I'm pretty confident that my social media has significantly more following than any other person currently on the Board of Supervisors. So I know that I've been engaging for a long time on Instagram, Facebook, X or Twitter, and other platforms. Even TikTok have some videos on there, and really making sure that we're kind of touching in many different ways, contacts with the people that we're serving. We know not everyone is going to see a social media post or maybe get this text blast or an email or a flyer.
Different, right? Yeah.
And so we really have to have that wide net approach. Also, an important aspect that we're learning more and more that folks are demanding are town halls, a place where you can go share and explain your vote, why you're voted a certain way, inform the community on what you're making decisions on, and hear back directly from them. Even if it's not what you want to hear, they deserve to have their voice heard by the person that works for them. And the reality is, as elected officials, we are not top of the food chain. The people are. And they're the ones who choose us to be up there. It's a privilege to serve. And that's part of having a backbone and doing this work, is actually going out there and visiting with the public, whether they agree with you or not. You're going to learn something from them, not just them learning from you. So those are just some of the ways that I've tried to be very engaged and transparent. But when it comes to the county of Orange itself, they need more real transparency and oversight. I mentioned a little earlier about some of course, the lack of oversight that led to Andrew Doe, this debacle, which I won't even go into much detail on, but essentially, his crimes he committed, if we had better oversight, better checks in place, he could have maybe been caught sooner. Those taxpayer dollars could have instead have been used to actually help people and not just wind up in him and his family's pockets. And so I mentioned a little bit about how Anaheim, I feel, has done this right. There's a lot more work to do for the county, and a concern for me is that this will just be the shiny issue of today, and people will forget about it. Changes won't occur. So you have to act now. That's why I think it shouldn't wait until I'm on the Board of Supervisors a year and a half from now. Changes should be happening now. And so broader than just this issue, just overall, I've tried to continue to be an advocate for North Orange County issues to the current Board of Supervisors, not just the committees I serve on, but really being an active voice with Supervisor Chafee and the rest of the Board of Supervisors. I know all of them to varying degrees of how close we are, and I feel I have a great relationship with everyone on the Board of Supervisors. And a lot of what I do isn't just the votes I take at City Hall right now, but the relationships we have, the at least perceived influence that we have. We should be utilizing that to best fight for people now and not just wait for an election to make that decision.
Now, it's almost like a lead-in, because you did a great job explaining about how you would be more transparent there and things that need to be done. You know, there's a lot of people out there that might be undecisive. Like we started off at the very beginning, they might not even quite know what the Orange County Supervisor does. You know, in order to find out more, where can people find out more about you, Connor? Where can they go? How can they contact you? Whatever that channel is.
Yeah, so a few ways. One, obviously anyone can go to my website for the campaign.
Okay.
That's my name, ConnorTraut.com, ConnorTraut.com. I've always been giving out my cell phone number. I'm sure there's going to be some day where I'm going to regret that. It still hasn't happened yet after 11 years. My personal cell phone number is 714-747-6766. It's not a campaign number. That is the same number my wife calls me on. So the same one I get the notifications from the baby monitor when our son Callum is waking up in the night. So that's my personal cell. My email is connor@troutgroup.com. That's a personal email. It's not Traut Group's it's what I use as my personal email. On the campaign side, I do have events usually at least once a month.
Okay.
And although it's a suggested amount to contribute to the campaign, something that I think that I do that's a little unique is my fundraisers can always be attended by somebody. If you live in the district I'm running for, you can attend at no cost. I've always had it that way. I will always have it that way. I don't believe people should be doing backroom, closed-door fundraisers and speak to donors in a different way they speak to the public. You should be your true, authentic self at all times. So my events, they're always going to be posted on my website that I had mentioned a little earlier. So I encourage people to go to those. On the more official side, just so I'm not conflating that too much,
Sure.
City council members, we do hold town halls, and a lot of that information would be on buenapark.com.
Right. Okay. Now we're getting to the point of the podcast where we always ask our guest for their own time. So is there anything that we've missed, or anything that you would like to share? Take this opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I'd say first, for our own campaign, I truly believe that we have the vision, the experience, and the heart for this seat, and we're going to make an incredible change. As I'd mentioned earlier, I believe there are a lot of good people who are going to run for this race. I'm already aware of a few good folks now who are interested in it. I do truly believe, though, that we are the best fit no matter who runs for this race. This is something I personally have been preparing for, even if it wasn't the exact intention, since I was 16 and started that team council advising on issues that made it all the way to the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
But as someone who has been a fourth-generation native of this county, my age is something that I believe is a strength. I'm 31 years old. I would be 32 at the time I'm elected to the Board of Supervisors. I think it's very important to have that wide range of generations at the decision-making table. The experiences my generation has had are very different than folks maybe that are 60, 70, 80 years old who are sometimes in these positions. And that mix of experiences only makes better policy. But it's also, I'd argue, you don't really have to just take my word for it. Look at who is supporting me. I think it's important to see who is supporting someone, to know kind of what really is their background, how they actually voted, what's important to them. My supporters, I have a bipartisan coalition of over 36 school board and city council members from within this district supporting our campaign. Legislators at all levels of government are supporting our campaign who represent jurisdictions in Orange County. The current supervisor, Doug Chafee, has asked me to be his successor, and that is with a great honor. I have his endorsement, as well as current supervisor Katrina Foley, who's done an incredible job advocating for really all of Orange County. She's been a supervisor who's represented different areas. Also very proud of those who keep us safe are supporting us. So the Orange County firefighters have endorsed our campaign. I'm not really sure the last time they've endorsed us an open race or an open seat for supervisor this early, and they are all in supporting our race. So our other fire unions throughout this district, LA firefighters who represent La Habra, are supporting our campaign. Anaheim firefighters, of course, with Anaheim, are supporting our campaign, and public safety on the side of the Buena Park Police Association is supporting our campaign. And this really is just the start. Labor as well. Very fortunate that we have the unanimous support of all 48. It was a unanimous vote for the LAOC building trades. The Building and Construction Trades Council has 48 local unions, and it really is a great honor to have their support and be a strong advocate for local hire, veterans preference, and a skilled and trained workforce on public works and private projects in this county. So I'm sharing all that kind of name dropping, folks, because I think it's important to know that I'm not just operating on an island here, or I'm not just words or talking points, but a real proven track record that those you maybe trust and know best are the ones who have faith and confidence in my track record and our vision for Orange County. And I truly believe we're going to make a great difference together, not just protecting those most vulnerable, but really also bringing better outcomes for everyone. So I appreciate the opportunity to have been here to talk with you today. Really hope turn into the video to earn your vote. And if I don't, that's okay too. It would be an honor to serve you. So appreciate the opportunity today.
I love that. Well, thanks again for both your time today and also your service, because you do serve our community. So we really do appreciate that. Thank you so very much. If you would like to hear more of Chamber Talk episodes, visit nocchamber.com and select Listen to Chamber Talk at the front of the page. Until next time, stay inspired and keep making an impact.